Hey there, and welcome to the Farmer Bailey webinar, Succeeding in the Farmer's Market. We're here today with our host, Bailey Hale of Farmer Bailey, and our panel of expert flower farmers, Shanti Rade of Whipstone Farm.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Our absolute pleasure. Thanks for being here. Miranda Duschack and Mimo Davis of Urban Buds. Hello, Mimo. Welcome.
Hey, so excited to have this conversation.
We can't wait. Really glad you're here. Hello, Miranda.
Hi, happy to be here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We're really excited to have this conversation today and are glad that you could join us. And without further ado, Bailey, take it away.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mima. Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, Shanti. These three women are farmers that I have known and admired and respected for many, many years. They are true experts in what they do. They also are long-term farmers market veterans and are very successful at farmers markets. A lot of us kind of dabbled, did markets and then got out of markets. I think the cut flower community is sort of split between people dying to get into markets and people dying to get out of them. Finding someone who is very happy to be in their market and excited to keep doing it is maybe a little bit of a rare thing. We have a few photos. This is when we were selling, when we started doing farmers markets. At some points, we're doing 3 a week with our baked goods and our flowers. And boy, were we exhausted. This is one of the first attempts when we really got a nice looking bakery display. And this must have been Mother's Day weekend because we had tulips. And then a little later in the season, yeah, I really liked, we were in Vermont, so displaying in these sap buckets really made a lot of sense for us. I was a bit averse to having plastic buckets on view, but I do see a plastic bucket in the photo on the right. Shame on me. We like to display that always looked full, even if we didn't have that many flowers. So we kind of came up with this tiered shelving. There's so many ways to go about it. But yeah, there's a little walk down memory lane. We always use this kind of dark paper, just sort of set us apart from some other people. It's a nice looking stock crop. And then, yeah, we also sold alongside just thousands and thousands of pastries. Honestly, when we lived more than 2 hours away from our market, we would not have done that market with just the flowers. It was the combination of the flowers and pastry that made it financially make sense. And we can talk about that today. I think, you know, on a good week, we sell 1,000 to 1,500 in flowers, which might sound like the most money in the world if you're new at this. But when you really start to look at your time investment, what it costs you to produce those flowers, especially for us driving 2 hours each way to get to that market, we really weren't making that much money. So we're going to have some frank financial discussions today as well. Again, here are our experts for today. We're going to go in this order. So we'll sort of bookend with viewpoints from Urban Buds, and then we'll hear from Shanti, a Whipstone out in Arizona. And here's the agenda. Just take a look at this. I'm not going to read it to you. These are the points that each person we're going to set out to speak to today. We may not hit everything. We have a lot of questions. If you have more questions, put them in the chat. We're going to try to get to everything, but there seems to be a lot of interest in farmers markets. So we're going to help you figure out maybe some of your problems or just help you think of things in new ways. And probably frustrate people. I don't always give people an answer, but I give them a way to find the answer for themselves. And that's really most valuable in the long term. All right. I think we're going to go right into Miranda. There's Miranda's smiling face. Miranda is one of our expert growers from Urban Buds in St. Louis. We had the great fortune of visiting Miranda for the ASCFG meeting last November. I haven't been to St. Louis for a long time, and you all were wonderful hosts, and we were so happy to see your operation firsthand. And take it away, Miranda.
Okay, Bailey, Thomas, Felicia, Allie, I mean, gracious, Mima, of course, I see you every day, but still, Shanti, it's like, and everyone joining us on this webinar, thank you so much. It feels, I didn't realize how hungry I was for community until we did our little rehearsal last week before Mother's Day, before the craziness of Mother's Day. So thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. The agenda is essentially what I'm covering. So you said you will interrupt me at the opportune moments and clarifying moments. So I'm just going to hop right in. Okay.
Great.
Good. So my name is Miranda Duschack. I am co-owner of Urban Bud City Grown Flowers. We're an urban micro cut flower farm in St. Louis City. And we bought the property in 2012 and started doing markets in 2013. And so we've been doing it for quite a while now. We enjoy it. Saturday market. We've added a Sunday market. We've tried a Tuesday market. We don't really enjoy that one for selling. We enjoy it for our social hour. So we don't do Tuesday, but I really enjoy markets, and I am still enthusiastic about them, even after Mother's Day weekend. So I am so proud of our team that we got through it just better than ever. So thank you to the team. Okay, so farmers markets. I think the first thing, just to start, when you go into any enterprise, any kind of new venture, or decide to stay within a venture, just some self-reflection, is farmers market really right for me? And the question is, how do I determine? People say, okay, how do I know? And the answer really is know thyself, right? This gets to, what do you enjoy? Where do you find that spark, that place where you're rejuvenated, peaceful, making money, having a pretty good time? And then people say, okay, wait, how do I even know that? Right? So let's kind of break it down into the fundamentals here. Is how do you know thyself, right? And at Urban Buds, we use the SWOT analysis quite a bit: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We write lists, right? Pro or con lists. I've used the Myers-Briggs sort of scoring testing to understand that I am an introvert, but I also love people, so that's great. The Enneagram is a tool. People talk about preying on making decisions. We use science or research-based information, right? Our own experience, right? So these are things that inform, like, okay, what's a good way of life that matches with my personality? And for me, that is farmers market. I think something that I reflected upon is that Shanti, Mima, and I all settled on farmers markets instead of weddings. And I would like to kind of dive into that topic maybe during our roundtable a bit. But so it's kind of know thyself, know what you enjoy, know what rejuvenates you. And so for me, it's like farmers market's fun. I like it. It's time to connect with the community. It's where I can share my views on sustainable agriculture and why these flowers are beautiful, last a long time, and are good for the earth and our community. It's time where I see friends. I'm raising my kids within that atmosphere. I just love farmers market. So, and I think of it as, within our farmers market booth, we're the host of the party. We want to create an atmosphere where people are excited to spend their Saturday mornings with us. People are relaxed, they're chill, but we're moving them through fast. We stay positive. We're not going to wear any sort of divisive statements on our shirts or talk about like bummer things on the farm. No. We want to stay positive. And I have sort of like rules within the booth. I don't like to eat during farmers market. I like to stay standing if I need to take a break to eat. I leave the booth, or if I need to sit down, I'll maybe now bring a stool or have a stool there for our elderly customers or differently able customers. So I am kind of bending a bit on that, but I just like to keep the place clean, white tablecloths, wiped buckets, organized, good signage. And then the other sort of tip with farmers market and being a good host of any party is remembering people's names. And how to set your product apart is those personal touches. You know, people come to market because they want to support us as farmers. They believe in the mission of what we're doing and what the other vendors are doing, and they're choosing to come to this beautiful park and spend their Saturday mornings with us. So I am grateful for every sale, Bailey. I got to tell you, every sale, I am still just like so grateful. So I use
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because you've already made some great points. I'm naturally an introvert as well. I can pull out my extroverted side, but I find when it's flowers, I have no trouble being excited about flowers. And then once you get to know the faces and see the same people week after week, it's easy to be excited about that person because you know them. And then after a while, you end up knowing everyone and it becomes just a community kind of love fest. But some people, I see them at farmers markets vending, really don't want to interact with anyone. They just want someone to come buy their stuff, and they're just sitting in the back corner in their chair. And they make a lot fewer sales than the person who's standing up in the front of the booth, knows someone's name, is interacting with the customers. So you made some great points already. I think we have a little poll. You gave a lot of really good tips about learning about yourself. So I think being true to yourself is true. We're going to do a quick little poll. It's the only one we've got lined up for today. I'm just curious if, you know, the people watching have used any of these, you know, just kind of tools.
You included praying on it. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay, interesting. Oh, interesting.
I think praying could also be wishing and hoping and manifesting and putting that energy into the world. That's
Yeah, that's all within praying on it.
I think so. Just
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, well, I was going to talk about my next point is a visualization technique, actually.
okay. So I think we're about done here. Let's see what
Research, yep, science. People love their science and their pro cons list. This is so fascinating. Thank you for taking the poll.
market research is a great way to decide if there's room for you. All right, let's. Okay, the poll has ended. Looks like making pro and con lists and doing research are the two most common ways to go about this. I applaud anyone who's stopped to do that. Thomas and I have made pro and con lists for everything we've ever done. And it really does work out to tell you, do I want to do this? And then once you've decided you're doing it, then you're going to do it better if you've made the results or made a conscious decision to do something.
Yes,
Right,
I would also like to add therapy to that list for future polls and points. You know, that'd be like counselor, wise friend, actual psychotherapy. You know, that is another tool I think that people avail themselves of quite a bit. So
absolutely. All right, okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Continue, please. You have so much to talk.
Yes, I know. Thank you. So my second sort of point about farmers market is fun, being a good host, creating an inviting atmosphere is remembering names. And I use a visualization technique that I'd like to share with you today. And what I do is I try to say their names. Like when I meet someone new, I try to say their names or read it on their credit card and then say it like 3 times out loud. I'll even say to them, okay, I'm going to try to remember your name and your dog's name, your name and your kid's name, whatever it is, say it 3 times. And then I visualize myself having a old school manila file folder and a file cabinet. The one behind me, I guess I visualize, I realize that now. And I just create a file with their name and a mental snapshot, and then I add details to it as our relationship develops over the years. And I can now remember quite a bit of information about people and their children and things like that. And it what's important in their lives, their careers, you know. So I think it's really a helpful tip, and I suggest you try it. Okay. I still have the self-knowledge tools poll up. Oh, I guess I close, right? Sorry, everyone. Okay, I'm back. Thanks. Okay, my other points that I'd like to address today include shop around for your market, everybody. Shop around for your market. Okay, you've decided that farmers market is you. You know, you want to go for it. You love being the host of the party. You're a people person, or at least you can pull it off for 8 hours on a Saturday, right? So shop around for markets. It's really important to know the market goals, what's sort of happening there. So things to look when you go to different markets, if you have the ability to go to different markets, that is. You know, is it a growers only market? That's very important for our market, is to have a percentage of products that are grown by the grower themselves, having an owner being present in the booth. Does the market have a food security focus? Do they accept EBT, food stamps, SNAPs, things like that? Is there a festival atmosphere, which is sort of where our market has embraced? Are there lots of dogs, children? What's the playground scene? Parking, accessibility, things like that. And then when you dig it a little bit deeper, figure out how the decisions are made and by whom. Is the market a not-for-profit, or is it a for-profit business? Our market, Tower Grove Farmers Market in St. Louis, grew out of a community grant, a community project to address food security within growing the local food movement. And this was 18 years ago, you know, a very successful project that then that not-for-profit dissolved, and the market is currently owned by one person, and he makes the decisions. You know, some farmers tried to organize a couple years ago with like a farmers advisory board and things like that. And although the owner of the market wasn't hostile, he was sort of essentially like, thanks for your effort. I will read the bullet points you sent me and bye, you know. So ours is a for-profit business. And so to that, oh, go ahead. Were you going to ask something?
Well, I wasn't, but I think I don't know, we maybe think of them as nonprofits, but someone's got to run it, and someone's got to show up, and someone's got to be responsible and make the decisions. So I think it's okay if there is one person who's making it their business to support your business. Yeah, I've seen all different kinds of calibers of market managers, from complete amateur to professionals who need to be paid a lot of money to do their job. And I must say the ones where people are actually being paid to do the job do a better job.
Yeah, and you know, Urban Buds itself chose to be a commercial for-profit family farm, you know, and so, hey, we are reluctant capitalists, and whatever, it's working there for them, it's working for us. One of my points here is that we can, when you understand the structure of who makes decisions and how, then you can create memorandums of understanding or limit the amount of certain type of vendors. Currently, at our market, we have 4 vendors who are flower vendors, and we're grateful for that, you know. And then within them, we still have our various levels of pricing and all that kinds of things that are stressful. Okay, but you know, that is how we decided, and market management has decided to help support our business. So that's really helpful. So we, you know, once you have those things, or as you move into this, simultaneously just continue to research and understand your tax laws. That was huge for us when Felicia asked me to think about what were things I wish I knew at the beginning when we started market. Tax law. If we could have really nailed that down like 4 years earlier than we did, that would have caused much less conflict in my business relationship with Mima and confusion. So my advice to you is channel that inner studious student, and channel that inner citizen who can march down and request tax laws, right? To understand how you can how you can make money within the market and deal with that. And my final point is just find allies who will care about you and advocate for communities. So within your farmers market, it will most definitely, well, it will most likely be within a municipality. So make friends with the Chamber of Commerce, the mayor, again, sort of that local government or anyone who has an interest in community development. So thank you so much.
Yeah, those are great points. I think when Thomas and I were starting farming, we had a lot of sleepless nights and months and years. But the tax thing really kind of loomed over us because you start doing a market and then suddenly you're getting cash. You're like, oh, do I have to declare this? What should I be doing? We were fortunate that we found a guy right away. And he's on staff now with Farmer Bailey as our accountant and bookkeeper and financial wizard. But he sat down with us and said, here's why we track this information. Here's what the government is looking for. We went down the tax form line by line, like here's what each line means. And this is why you need to be paying attention on this end to track these numbers as they occur. And it just,
oh no, this is, no, Bailey, this is more fundamental. I found a law from before World War II, where it talks about that farms, okay, so we're a farm that sells in a location that's not permanent off their farm, so like not a store, not their own run store, but a farm that sells its products at farmers market, and that's their primary sales place, is exempt from paying sales tax. And so that was huge. And I was like, wait a minute, this law is old. And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. Lots of the laws we still have are like super old, you know? So I can share that law, I can make sense of it. And then we, pre-pandemic, the city, so making allies with our mayor, our aldermen, other community people who cared about food security and urban farming, you know, we worked together to change laws around urban agriculture, one of which was to be able to have a farm stand on your urban farm within city limits, within, you know, certain times and blah, 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 but without sales tax, right? So then you stack both of those laws together and it enables us to function like a real farm within this municipality. So I just, you know, want to encourage people to dig deep, learn about the laws, and then even remember, go even farther and remember, oh my gosh, this stuff can be changed.
That's
and
great.
Do what we did, ask for meetings with the mayor. And it wasn't just me, of course, it was a coalition of people, but, you know, just invite them to your farm. We decided early on that Urban Buds was going to be pretty on the radar because we were so urban. So, okay, fine, come to the farm. Yeah, I'm embarrassed our weeds are there. Meh.
That's great advice. Yeah, I think I took it as just figure out your financial responsibility, but also look into your laws. And I know you found a really good one that has helped your business a lot. I don't know if I never looked for them in Vermont, but maybe there was something there that I could have used to our advantage. So you've always been smart at looking for grants and taking those opportunities that are available. And yeah, I'm always admired your tenacity and your ability to find solutions. So great job.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Wow. Takes one to know one.
All right, well, thank you for your points. We're gonna, I guess, move on over to Shanti now. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more from you because there's a mountain of questions that we're gonna get to at the end. By all means, keep sending your questions, pop them in the chat. We'll try to get to all of them. I'm not sure we will be able to. But next up is my good friend, Shanti Rade. I should say that Shanti and Mimo and I at least served on the board of the ASCFG. And that's part of how we've had the chance to get to know each other. You know, we go to these meetings, big conferences, and there's so many people that you may only get 30, 50 seconds with somebody. But I've gotten the chance to know Shanti and Mimo especially well over time. So Shanti, my friend, I'm glad to have you here with us today.
Bailey, thanks so much for having me. It's yeah, what a great group of people to do this with. And I love the topic because farmers markets is the thing I feel like not old hat per se, but I feel like very comfortable in this conversation and I have a lot of opinions. And after our sort of practice run last week, I loved that we had so many sort of common feelings about farmers markets, but also some really like diverse opinions where we like totally diverge. So it's actually great because that sort of dialogue and debate is really helpful. Like in my notes last week, I didn't even think about are farmers markets right for you? And that is really like the first fundamental question that's super vital. So Miranda did an awesome job of covering that. I will say, so my husband, my partner, Corey, and I have been selling at farmers markets. He started before me. So about 24 years, I think. I was actually straight out of college. I got hired to be the market manager of the farmers market we still sell at. And through being the market manager, I like then interned at the farm of my now partner, like father of my children. So you never know where it will lead. And so I would say farmers markets are really appealing because it's super easy entry. Like you need what, a tent, a table, like hopefully a tablecloth, and whatever you have available. Like you just bring it with you. No pre-ordering, no like, you know, knowing what you'll have in what month of the year. Like it's just an easy way to like get your foot into the selling door. And there's already customers showing up to see your product. So it's easy entry, but it's also a big commitment. And so kind of understanding if it's right for you is a good place to start. Also choosing your market, 100% agree with that. If you have a choice, some people are maybe in an area where it's like, there's only one option. Maybe it's great. Maybe it's mid, you have to decide if it's good enough for you to spend your time, creating like your own customer base through. I would say we're really lucky. We're not in near the biggest, city in our state by any means, but we have an amazing farmers market. So we're going on 25 years. And even though I say we're lucky, I guess I have to backtrack and say it's a great market because we've been involved all that time. It started as kind of a piddly market, right? It was like we did a 4-week trial run the first year. My partner was at the very first ever market that they did. So he's got the longevity. We are a nonprofit. We are a grower only market. So we do farm inspections for every farm at the market. So not only do we say you have to grow the product, we go ensure that they actually are. And we have kicked a lot of people out of our market. People think farmers markets are like cute and quaint and friendly and everyone loves each other, but there's a lot of politics going on. There's a lot of cheating going on. There's a lot of, people feeling competitive with each other and like ratting each other out for things that are not actually happening. Like, so having good management in place that is like, weeding through this and like just, putting some rules in place and then making sure that they're happening. Really important. I agree.
Sounds like a good reality TV show in the making.
Totally. It totally could be. So we've also spent a decade or more volunteering on the board of directors of our farmers market. So like, it's a great market, but it's because we've really put in a lot of effort too. So nothing comes for free, right? I know also at our market, this is, I think, kind of not the norm across the country, but we pay a percentage of our sales to the market every week. So not just a booth fee at the beginning of the year, but we pay 10% of our sales to the market. And some vendors just like, do not jive with that. It's like, well, and we pay a lot of money. Like farmers markets are a huge part of our business, like percentage of our overall sales. So we're spending a lot of money, but I know that money is going to, a well-paid market manager, a market assistant, lots of marketing and advertising and special events. We have like the compost booth and the kids activities and all these things that feel superfluous, but again, make for like a really lovely market environment that the community is really invested in. And I would say if I had to like break down like what I feel about farmers markets into like one thing, it would be creating community. And so, yeah, it's a great sales avenue for us, and we're there to make money, and we're there to support our family and support our employees. But the thing we love about it is it's a community, like it creates a community in this sort of small realm, rather than just being like, okay, your whole town or your whole city or whatever. People that have some shared values in like good food, so keeping local farms in the community, all that stuff. So I'm not going off my notes at all. So let me just double check here what I'm talking about.
Let me just stop you there for 1 second. How many
Yeah.
people, how big of a city is where your market is located, or?
Yes, so we've sold at lots of different farmers markets. This is just the one we've consistently sold at for 25 years, and we're still there. It's about 40,000 people, so it's
Okay.
not that big. We've sold at other markets that are like in a city of 100,000. So, and it's, you know, but sometimes you go to the big city and there's like 30 markets to choose from, and that's usually not good. Like if there's too many farmers markets, you're not funneling all of the people to look at your stand. So yeah, just making those choices are important. So beyond creating community, which feels nice and lovey-dovey, like just to get into sort of the nuts and bolts of how to succeed at a farmer's market, which, let's just be honest, in the long run, it's got to like financially succeed for you. So I'm just going to go through some bullet points of what's worked for us. So bringing really high quality product. I think this might be more true in the veggie world. So we also sell vegetables. Probably 70% of our business is vegetables, 30% flowers. So I'm going to talk a lot about like having a lot of variety. I'm not saying that's the right way to go per se, because being widespread can really, you know, you're born thin trying to do it all. But I do know in the vegetable world, some people think of farmers markets, it's kind of like a dumping ground for low quality product. I would just counter that with like, that's not the business that we're trying to run. We're trying to have the highest quality product we can, you know, well displayed, well priced, really consistently. We have a year-round farmers market, so we're there 52 weeks of the year. We don't have flowers 52 weeks of the year, but we have something. We have dried flowers in the winter. We have merch that people like to buy, whatever it is, but being there as consistently as possible. So to me, that's a commitment of every single market of the year. If we can't be there personally, we have some good representatives who can run the market for us. But me and my partner are there 50 weeks out of the year at least. So that, you know, so I mean, that's a choice and not everyone's going to do that. And I will say my friend Mandy at Three Porch Farm, like she sends me multiple texts a year reminding me that I should get someone to do the farmer's market for me and get out, because it is tiring. Like you mentioned, Bailey, sometimes it's hard to do it for the long haul and you realize it's not for you. Could just be your entryway, right? To get customer base and your sales going and like, you know, to like learn the business. Or it could be like you're a lifer, which is kind of where I'm at and kind of where Mima and Miranda are at. I would also say I'm sort of a reluctant, I'm not like super outgoing. I like people. I like interacting with people. I live in a rural place on a farm, so it is kind of my like social activity of the week. My friends come to the farmer's market to hang out with me because otherwise they don't see me all year. But I could do with less social interaction, especially 20 years in. But my partner, on the other hand, is like, loves people, loves talking to people, loves hugging every single customer. I will remember their names. He will like, you know, he really likes the old ladies, especially. He likes to like help them to their car and, you know, help them pick out the best vegetables. So having the right personality is key. And if it's not you, you can hire someone to do that for you. But there is a level of knowledge about your product that no one else is ever going to have. So I'm sort of an advocate of being there yourself, unless you're like super crotchety, can't put on a clean shirt, and don't like to talk to people. You know, maybe you aren't the best representative for your farm. But if you can be being there yourself, like, you know your product better than anybody else. We always talk up, you know, what's good that week, how people can cook it, how to make that flour last. You know, this is the last week of this thing, you better snag it while you can. And no one else is really going to have all of that knowledge on the same level. So, sorry, I'm just gonna like look at my notes here really quick. So quality of product. One thing that's kind of nice actually, even though we're going for high quality, is you can sell a different, especially in flowers, like a different stage of harvest than you might sell to another sales channel. So we do a lot of wholesale sales to florists and to a wholesaler. You know, they want things tighter with a longer shelf life. They're going to use it later in the week. And at the farmer's market, things can be quite open as long as, you know, they still have enough face life in them. People don't like, in my opinion, people don't like to buy closed lilies where you can't even see the color of the flower. it's a tricky flower because if it's open, even if you're selling it at the market, it bruises in the bunch, so sometimes you have to go the extra mile and have an open bouquet on display and then the closed bunch behind it, right? So you have to really like manipulate, but it is a nice way to sell things a little more open, whereas like your more closed stage of harvest is going to one sales channel, and the farmer's market, like you want it to look its best and still be like a high quality product.
Let me interject there. We did that. We actually had a good market for lilies in Vermont. We would bring them all closed, and we would always have an example of each one of them fully opened. And people would ask for the open one. I said, no, you don't really want that. I said, trust me, this is the same variety. Give it 3 days. It's going to open in your home, and you're going to have it for 10 more days. We'd always get people that 1 week later say, oh, I don't need flowers this week because last week still looked so good. Like, well, that's not really what I want to hear, but I'm glad they're lasting well for you. What percentage of your flower sales are to markets versus other channels? Because I think it can work really well. My wedding florists, their color palettes would change each week, and they might take all of one type of flower, but that would leave everything else for the market on the weekend. It was really great to be able to balance the two. What's your experience been with that?
Yeah, I would say about 50-50, which is good. They kind of happen at different times of the week, but agreed, like you kind of know what florists will buy, but then they'll like throw you a curveball and want like all of, like some huge event that takes like all your yellow, which is rare, right? But the farmers market is like this, as much as it's not a dumping ground, it is very like malleable, right? Like you can
more flexible,
put anything together. Yeah, you have like some capability to like use whatever you have, as long as you have enough, right? So for us, our best selling item at farmers market is mixed bouquets, which is like great, right? Because it can be anything. Then again, I'm very particular about wanting like a good combination. Like, so to me, I don't want to do weddings. I want to have nothing to do with weddings, even though I sell to a lot of florists. But my like creative outlet is I get to create the mixed bouquet sort of palette. And that's just my like, so I get to feel like I have some design, like I get to use my design skills in that way. And then but I have to be creative. Sometimes all you have is some sort of like hideous colors that you don't love. However, yeah, the farmer's market is like a pool that can take different things. So one of my other points was you still want to cater to your audience. So I know that brown lisianthus does not sell well at the farmer's market. I grow it because designers love it. But so to a degree, you are catering to your audience, and to a degree, you are using up whatever you need to fill your market with some beautiful product.
A photo of your bouquets here. They're lovely. And I'm sure I can see that this changes every week, but they're really well composed. Well, I think we'll talk about that. We have a lot of questions about pricing. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
People want to know about selling straight bunches versus bouquets. Yep. There's no right answer. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. But yeah, your bouquets, your social media is always great, so everyone should follow you, but you always post beautiful photos. It's clear you know quality and you know the flowers and you have the skills to put them together well. So that helps.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so just 2 points I'll make, because yeah, so pricing is like, anyone that's going to ask about pricing, it's really variable based on your location, your type of product, everything. But what I would say about pricing and catering to your audience is that I think my customers want to kind of know what they're in for. I would say I still get kind of like anxious going into like a brick and mortar florist. It's going to be like super expensive, especially if you're just sort of picking out what you want and it's by the stem, but you don't like the prices aren't listed and it feels a little scary. So we just have like price points that we meet that we've learned customers feel comfortable with. And those go up a little, like especially with inflation these days, right? But we're like, okay, we have a mixed bouquet price point. A little more expensive, but we know it's like what people who want a nice big thing feel comfortable buying. We have a straight bunch price point. It's whatever we have a lot of, but some things just don't sell well as a straight bunch at the farmer's market. It's got to be something that feels like a flower, right? Like to me, Bells of Ireland doesn't sell good on its own. And then we also make mason jar bouquets, which are just little. They're not like really elaborate. They're small and they're like with whatever flower is too short to use elsewhere. So to me, I always felt embarrassed that was one of our best sellers, but it's like, we're using something we can't use elsewhere. They're so quick to make and we price them pretty cheaply. So people, it's like they know they have something they can afford, even if they don't have a lot. I mean, so ours are $15, but don't take that price to mean anything for your own sales or market. And we live in a really hot climate. So they're taking something home in water that's easy to gift or easy to just plop on their table. They don't have to rearrange it, even though it takes us literally 2 minutes to make one. So I feel like that's catering to my audience, like giving them the price points they kind of know to expect. And then for us too, there's just some flowers I don't sell at the market because I don't feel like I can sell them at a price where I'm making what I need to, but they're kind of meeting the farmers market expectations. So those just go to wholesale, where the wholesale buyers are like happy to pay a really high price because they understand the value. And, you know, so it's like a perceived value of what people are willing to spend. The other thing too, with that around price and price points is you don't have to make a 10-stem bunch. So you make, you know, you put in a bunch what you can get a good price for and what feels good to a customer grabbing it, right? So you can just sort of like manipulate it how you need to make what you need to financially for the stems. So the one thing I love about farmers markets is, and all these people wanting to know about price, it's like this immediate market research feedback. So I'm like, I wonder if I can get this price for this product, right? So I can bring it there and price it at what I want to make, and I can watch like nobody buy it. I can be like, okay, this isn't working. Do I need to mix it with something else? Do I need to put less stems in the bunch? Drop the price? Like you can start to like do a lot of manipulating and then get like immediate feedback on whether or not it's working. So all these people that are really worried about price, like this is your testing ground. You don't want to be wildly changing your prices every week, but you like have this sort of research like opportunity. So let's see, I guess the last thing I will say, well, so I had a bunch about like display and presentation, but I think a lot of it's fairly obvious, right? Like Miranda talked about white tablecloths being the thing that sells product the best. That's what the research says. Personally, we're too dirty and messy to keep a white tablecloth looking clean. So we went with like a different vibe. I think ours are green, but I'm kind of ready for a refresh. So my only point is like, you could sort of pick a vibe or a feeling that you're going for, and then just design your booth around it. Like your booth, Bailey, with all the black, you know, that black, very like slinky tablecloths that like everything's like, you know, hugging everything. I don't know how to say it, but it was like very sleek, very clean, very modern. Ours is a little more like rustic and farmy, but still trying to be clean. So I wore this today because this is my like farmer's market shtick, is like I wear an apron to the farmer's market, kind of keeps me looking a little cleaner, but it's a clean apron. I don't farm in an apron. I don't farm in a little florally situation, but that's my like kind of playing the role when I go to the market, you know. So you can like, maybe some people you want to be like super upscale and like, you know, fancy and shishi. We're kind of like down to earth, natural, clean, you know, lots of variety, lots of layers, just like Bailey was talking about. At the end of the day, you don't have a lot. Well, create a lot of layers and make it look full, even if you don't have a lot. We keep all of our back stock in like a refrigerated truck and continually refresh it and restock it. So making it look beautiful, I mean, you guys can figure that out, but it's a job. It takes work. We have so we have 3 registers going at the market. Part of that's because we have all the vegetables, we're weighing tomatoes and whatever, you know, doing a lot of different things. But I have 3 people working the registers, and then me and my husband are usually out there restocking and talking to people. So we learned that one of our jobs is to let other people sort of do the things that will keep the line flowing, and that people want to talk to us. And so it's okay that our job is to just be there talking to people. They're usually customers, usually with gardening questions and or cooking questions and or, you know, all the questions. Like you can't believe the questions they ask you. But that's our job. Like we're there to educate, and because people trust us as educators, they come buy lots of our stuff. So it's a payoff. Yeah, so my last point is just that like you have to be your own hype person, which is just to say, like you were saying, Bailey, like you have to put your stuff on social media. The market is of course doing their own like marketing, but they're doing it for all the vendors. So I know it's my job to let people know, to get them excited about what we're bringing to the market. So usually Friday night, I always do a farmer's market sneak peek. So I just like, once we're done bunching all the flowers and getting all the vegetables washed, I just like pull stuff out of the cooler and snap some photos, give them a little preview of what's going to be there and get them excited. Sometimes they'll do a live, like an Instagram live at the market to, you know, like encourage people to come down, like show them everything on display because we made it look really nice. That's the time to do it. Or give them a little FOMO, like they do not want to miss out, you know? And then like the farmer's market reposts the photos or the customers post their own photos and we repost them. So like the onus is on you to make sure you sell your product. You can't really just rely on somebody else. And that takes some time to build your customer base to know that you can do that yourself, but it comes pretty quickly. It's a visually appealing product. You can do this. We also have a newsletter. It's a ton of, well, I've been pretty slackery about it lately, but for about like 10 years, I was like hardcore newsletter every week on Friday before the market. I'll save that for another time, but I have a lot to say about newsletters.
Okay.
Anyone wants to ask. So that's everything. Sorry, I just talked very.
No, that's great. You had a lot of great points. I think making your display inviting and like that's your home, or we always view it as like you're coming into our store, even though our store only exists on this one corner for a few hours a week. But for this time, you're in our home, you're in our space, you're a guest. And it goes, you know, goes back to Miranda's point about being the host. I think also just having a clean apron on, you know, having things nicely presented for your guests. I think it's a really great attitude, great approach for everything in terms of your farmer's market. Don't make them wait too long. Give them options on how to check out. Make it clear where you're supposed to line up. Make it clear what things cost. Just be very, very hospitable to your guests. Thank you, Shanti. Oh, we did have one question. Where did you get that cute apron?
I just put it in the chat, but
Okay, you got it.
this was like maybe 10 years old. There was a customer who I can't remember if she approached me or she was wearing something and I mentioned it and she was just like made custom sewn things. And so she made me this cute apron and I traded her some flowers for it.
That's great. I like it. We always wore like bakery aprons to give ourselves a clean appearance if perhaps we were covered with flour and soil underneath.
Totally. Yeah. Hide the dirt.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Shanti. I appreciate your sharing your wisdom with us. I'm going to call it wisdom. All right. I feel like we're going to really have a lot of fun with the question time. But before then, we're going to have fun with Mimo. Remember my very first ASCFG meeting, I believe Mima presented on farmers markets. And Mima, it was really more of a stand-up comedy show, as I recall, because I was rolling in the floor. I think when you went on about using a tidy cat litter bucket on your table, I think that's when I knew we would someday be friends. So you made an impression on me since the moment I met you. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about farmers markets. All right, I feel like we're gonna really have a lot of fun with the question time, but before then, we're gonna have fun with Mima. Remember my very first ASCFG meeting, I believe Mima presented on farmers markets. And Mima, it was really more of a stand-up comedy show, as I recall, because I was rolling in the floor. I think when you went on about using a tidy cat litter bucket on your table, I think that's when I knew we would someday be friends. So you made an impression on me since the moment I met you. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about farmers markets.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. This is such a fun, exciting conversation to be having. And Bailey, that would be not having tidy cat buckets in your booth.
Not even one?
Not even one, Bailey, not nor garbage cans, okay? You know, at least that's just, this, everything I say is what my preference is. Everybody, you have to find your own preference. There's not one model here that's gonna fit everybody, okay? Shanti, Miranda, those were wonderful things. I think they did it, and I have very little to say, but I am gonna say a few points here. So I've been doing farmers market a really long time, like 30 years, and I've had varying experiences in different markets. When I first started cut flower farming, the first thing I did was a farmer's market. As Shanti said, it was low input, low impact. I can, take whatever was in the field to the market and sell it. So, I recommend to so many new farmers, flower farmers are coming on board now, and they're like, how do I sell to a florist? It's like, no, why don't you think about an easier route? Because that's a lot of stress, that you're putting on yourself unnecessarily right up front. So, I really encourage people to find out about when the flowers are actually going to bloom for them. And there's just a lot that you eliminate by doing farmers markets. That is a pro in the category of pros and cons of why farmers markets. What I look for in a farmers market today, one, we have I believe the best farmers market in the country. Okay, but it gets its attendance is like 8 to 10,000 a week. It is in the middle of a 289-acre park. That's a beautiful historic park. That's a pro, but there is a con to that later. But it is a Saturday St. Louis destination. People come there to be there, to stay there for hours. They have a food court where they've set up picnic tables. They have a water fountain where the kids could, a splash pad. They have 2 playgrounds where kids could play. So so people come, shop, have breakfast, meet people there. There's live music. So a lot of activity. They have created this atmosphere that makes St. Louis, that makes it a hot spot for St. Louis on Saturday. That being said, I don't rely on them to do any of our advertising at all. Now they'll post every week. Hey, this, they'll repost what I post, basically. But it's to me, I just we just rent this space, Miranda and I. We just rent this 10 by 10 booth, and that's all it is. It's up to us to create something, to create buzz within that booth. Yeah, so knowing the market, that's a really big deal. Knowing if this is the right market for you. I know that I don't want to be next to somebody selling tube socks at a farmer's market, because it immediately, for me, it immediately degrades what I got going on, right? I got this specialty product that's hard to get. You can't get it anywhere else but at Urban Buds next to a tube socks. No, thank you. So, knowing the market, having a relationship with the market managers and the owners of that market. Early on, I established a relationship, really good working relationship with our farmers market. Has so big, it actually has two market managers. The owner lives in Spain, and it's good that he lives in Spain. He's really an introvert. He cannot get out a sentence. He cannot speak one sentence if he gets nervous. Okay, so it's good. It's all works. The farmers market people are paid really well. They take that job seriously, and they're great. So this past Saturday, right? This past week, Mother's Day, right? So the market is really crazy, cars parked everywhere, and it's in a park. So parking is really limited. I needed to do a second load into farmers market. I, simply wrote the email, hey, Kat, I need to do this. Wanted to give you a heads up. Is this okay by you? They not only said, yes, it was okay. They put out cones to block the area that I needed the vehicle to go into. Okay. I mean, it's having those type of relationships that really, really work. So that and you establish them early when there are no problems, right? So that you can, so that when there are problems, you've already got that relationship. You've already got those open lines of communication going.
I'm gonna interject here. That was always our approach too. Our market manager would send these huge emails, on Friday night, and we would read every line of that email. He would often have like $20 to the first person who says that they read it or tells me this thing. We would get that $20 every time because we wanted him to like us. Our livelihood depended on him liking us. And we ended up being one of his favorite vendors. He would give us preferential spots. If some little opportunity came up, we were always the first to be involved. Don't go in with a list of complaints and telling people how to do things. Like learn who's in charge and be their friend.
Right, read the room, right? I mean, it's really, really important. You do not want to make enemies with your farmers market manager. They can make life really hell for you. And it's not that they do it intentionally, but subconsciously they're just putting you on the bottom of the list, okay? Because you were just a pain in their butt. So yeah, and the promotions, I tell you what, every Friday night, I do the same as Shanti. And during the week we do a newsletter that goes out every week. You know, that's a lot, but we do it. And it's just like what's happening on the farm. And then we do a Instagram post, you know, Friday. Every time, whatever the topic I post, you can guarantee the next day the customers, multiple customers, want to talk about that post. So, you know, because I've heard people go, is it really worth it? Is it working? How do you know it's affecting people? I know it's affecting people because when they come to the farmer's market, they want to talk about it. So they're reading it. That tells me that they're reading it. And so that's another way we really promote ourselves and the market. I know we're going to be talking about price and price points and you know, people lowballing the flowers. We definitely have that going on at our farmers market. There is a lot of politics. I try to stay out of the politics, but I, you know, just did it a long time ago, and I don't have a problem with it now. There are people that undercut us at farmers market. Totally. You know, we have a 35, 30 or 40, $40 bouquet. And their bouquet is 15. Okay, so there's a huge discrepancy between their flowers and our flowers. Are we going to ever lower the price? Absolutely not. Do we sell out every single week? Absolutely. So the other thing is, I think Shanti also talked about it, all that short stuff, and we call it a happy bouquet. And we make a ton of them. And it is a huge seller next to our mixed bouquets at farmers market. And it's all that short stuff. It's everything short. Okay. That, you know, 6 to 8 inches tall that you're just going to hand them. We wrap water in it and wrap paper towel and water in it. Really important to keep the booth looking full. Everybody knows this. I know this is common sense, but like, even when you're super busy, you know, Saturday, we were like slammed. And I looked up and the booth looked like terrible, right? And it was just, I got to go take care of that. I can't stand to look at it, refresh, move everything up to the front because nobody wants to, you know, think that they're thumbing through trash, right? Let's see what
that we would sometimes bring. I don't know, I think I had a big bed of Heliopsis or something, which like no one's going to buy armfuls of Heliopsis, but we had it on hand. It was already cut and in the cooler. Like, well, I'm going to take that to market because I don't have a lot else. And if I can just make a backdrop of that stuff and have the few things that I know people will buy in the middle, people love shopping out of a full display. That's just basic marketing. Both on the bakery side and the cut flower side, we try to make it look as full as possible because that feeling of abundance makes them want to take that abundance home with them. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's a really big deal, and it sounds so simple, but it really makes a huge difference. What else do I want to say about the market? The relationships with the customers. Okay, some of the customers, we're doing 2 farmers markets now. So our farmers market has gotten so big. I mean, I tell you what, you know, when we first started this farmers market, I told Miranda, you know, if we didn't make $300 in 4 hours, we weren't coming back, right? And that market is just blown up over the years. And now, you know, it's an incredible market. We have built that market. We have personally built our market. We are a cornerstone of that market now. And people come there just to buy our flowers. So it's really a labor of love, getting to know those customers, having those customers get to know you, having a good mission. Now, for me, I have been in a situation where I had Wild Thing Farms and I would travel 2 hours in the market, having to leave the house at 3:30 in the morning to get to Clayton, Missouri to set up the booth and blah, blah, blah. That was really difficult for me, and not life sustaining. I used to aftermarket, take the cash box and go into a movie theater before I got on the road to drive because it was dark, air conditioning, and I could take a nap. I mean, that was just the craziness of what we do to figure out how to make stuff work, right? Now our market is it's ridiculous. It's 2 miles from the house. I mean, so I know I just feel really blessed. It's 2 miles from our house. It's really easy. We get in, get out, and have some sales, and it's really great. Now, our florists also sometimes come to our farmers market, who we also sell to, and that's very interesting. I've had to really not like create a hard shell and not feel the ping that they're sending me across the table. But what can I say? If they don't buy it, I've got to sell it, right? So it's not like it's the florist leftovers. It's just different, but it is, definitely a display that they're seeing that I think that they get nervous about. What else on my notes?
Yeah, I
Happy
think that's
Bouquet. Go
I
ahead,
think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
there's some questions about people, how do you differentiate your florist customers from your farmers market customers? I think your florists get first priority. They may not be getting a huge discount off what you're going to sell it for later, but they get priority in color and ordering, and they get a lot of hand holding. And then the people at farmers market, they're not shopping the leftovers, but they're shopping the stuff that was not
Right.
previously ordered by someone else. So
Right, exactly. So, our florists, they order and pick up Thursdays. And so everything else we're making into bouquets on Fridays and selling on Saturday is the way it works. Year-round market. So our market is year-round, and we do season extension because I think it's really, really important that people create habits, right? We are a creature of habit. So when we go to a farmer's market, people go get their eggs, they go get their cheese, they go get their meat, and then they get their flowers on the way out, right? It's a pattern. And I want to be in that pattern right up front year round, right? So later in the season, when the other 3 flower vendors, and we're the only full booth flower vendors, like that's all we do. Out of those 4, we're the only ones that is 100% flowers. But I want to be the first one in that loop when people are getting ready to come to market in spring. So it's really important that I establish that boundary right up front. And I'm saying I a lot, Miranda. I'm including you in this I. I'm just talking about, what we do. But, I just think it's really important to establish yourself in that marketplace. If you're going to do it, commit to it, do it. No one wants to interrupt you if you're sitting in a chair with your product on the table, if you're sitting in a chair scrolling on your phone. Nobody wants to interrupt you, okay? So you're not going to sell products. Be engaged, be upfront. We know most of our customers. I was about to tell you, the second farmers market that we're doing, it's a smaller market. It doesn't have the volume. It doesn't have, I think it's going to be a lot of years before it really builds to what it needs to be. But we're there because our first farmers market has gotten so big that some of our senior customers can no longer handle the dogs and the people bumping. I mean, it's too much for them. And they asked us to come to this market. And some of these customers I've had farmers market customers 30 years. I mean, they come to the booth and they talk about it. Oh, Mima, it's been 30 years. We're doing this market for them. It's not a big sell, but that customer service that we're willing to send somebody there for 4 hours, pay somebody. I'm not going to go there and stand. We pay a staff person to go do it because it's kind of a loss leader for us anyway. And it's like whatever we have left over, if we have anything, we actually have to now save stuff back for that market, like a few bouquets, but yeah, it's about that customer service. It's about making them feel special. It's about hearing what they have to say, and really listening, really being there for them and trying to work it out for them.
That's great.
And we
Be
don't,
your customer for 30 years, Mima.
yeah, Bailey, come on.
I
So
come see you
the
every week.
other thing is weddings. So we get some weddings. I don't like to do weddings. I'm not the type of person that's going to sit down and look at your swatch with you. I'm never going to do that. Okay. So, but what happens is that our farmers market customers, kids get married, and so we will take small weddings. If you want something dangling from the ceiling, we're not going to do that, but we're going to give you a nice, wedding. We're going to get, we'll do table arrangements, the bouquets, the boutonnieres, and the best part is that those customers who have been our customers for years will usually say, you do you know, and we know you, we know what you'll do, you do you, right? And those are the ones that we'll take. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other things that these are all like customer relation stuff, but
I think it really comes down to that's what it's all that. I think customer relations is really the crux of what everyone is saying here. You got to grow good flowers. You got to do that regardless of who you're selling them to. You have to figure out your quality. That will dictate your price, but you got to keep that relationship with the florist, with the retail customer, anyone. And I think that's why y'all have been so successful for so many years.
And my last point about the tidy cat, I'm going to circle back to the tidy cat. Because I also think it's really important. I think your presentation is so important. The way you look. Okay, I have these farmer overalls. I wish I would have thought to bring them today, but I wear them, and 20 people compliment me on these things every week, even if I wear them every week. It's crazy. They're from Duluth. They have vegetables on them, and they're just like really cutesy, overalls that I wear. And then the tablecloths, I want to change the color. We haven't talked about it yet, but I want to change the color from white to black or maybe something else. I don't care about that. I really care that it's a solid color. For me, that for my eyes, it's needs to be a solid color, whatever color it is, so that it makes the flowers pop. I think busy tablecloths are hard on my eyes. Yeah, and the tidy cat. So I value my flowers, right? So I'm not going to put my flowers in trash cans or in tidy cat buckets and take them to market. It just gives a different vibe. I guess I am looking for a little higher level vibe at my market, and one last point, which I think is really cool. I definitely believe Miranda or I need to be at the market. You're the only one, they're your flowers, you sell them. Occasionally we send an employee to this big market. But what's really interesting is that Miranda and I do the same market, but we alternate weeks. We rarely, like Mother's Day, we did the market together, but we rarely do the market together. So we alternate weeks, and we have very different market interactions with the customers. It's really interesting. What she gets and what I get are very, very different. And it's not, good or bad. It's just a really interesting way that how different personalities can bring out different things in your customers. Something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. We had times where maybe we were both traveling, wasn't very often. And our team, who was often there too, they would do it, but our sales would be lower on those weeks. Or if Thomas was away and I'm trying to do pastry side and flower side, we would see a dip in sales. That familiarity, that routine, it's that once a week thing people want to do. They want it to be the same every week. They want to have that same breakfast sandwich. They want to get the same colored eggs. They better have a few blue ones in there. They want to get this bouquet. They want to spend this much money. So by all means, help them create that fantasy. Thanks, Mima. We're going to jump into a bunch of questions. We can be as brief as possible on a lot of these, and if we need to talk more about them, so be it. There's just a whole lot of them, so I apologize if I don't get to everyone's question, but I'm going to try. We've kind of talked about price. There's a lot of questions here. So what do you do when someone is undercutting you? My first thing is you don't lower your price. You can't really control what other people do. If they don't want to make money, that's their business. It's hard. It's always going to happen. Anyone have a strong opinion or some Zen advice on how you deal with someone selling something for a third of what you are?
I'll go first briefly. We don't have a ton of flower competition like in our area, so in some ways we're lucky for that. But in terms of price, just in general, like we're coming up with our prices for what we know we need to make. So we're very like strict about like we never lower our price, especially for the people like people think the farmers market's like an international market where bartering's a thing. So they come up towards the end of the day, they want a deal. Never lower our price because we don't want that expectation. We want people to come early, buy it at full price, resell out. Like that's the goal. So we just never lower our price. We do love to give things away for free if we have an abundance, like a single flower, or just because like someone looks like they're having a rough day, or you want them to try a new vegetable they're like skeptical about. Once you give somebody something for free, they're so floored that they're like a customer for life and they'll keep coming back. But like we just never want to set the expectation of lowering price. But in terms of like, and we're probably higher priced than most other people for similar products at our market. But so the same with flowers is like if you have a consistently great product, you have no reason to lower your price. If people want to compare, like, are your $40 mixed bouquets, Mima, the same as the $15 vendor? They're probably not the same flowers because you guys grow a bunch of really rad flowers that other people do not grow. So it's more work, it's more expense on the front end. You can explain that to them. Or my favorite is when somebody complains about the price and I just don't say anything, but the person behind them in line is like, oh, you won't find anything like this anywhere else. And they just go to bat for you, just completely like bowl them over with all of the positive accolades. And I just like, I don't have to say anything. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you are, what your quality is.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I find it helpful to have the price list, the wholesaler price list available, so we can kind of say like our wholesaler in St. Louis, they essentially set the prices and you should be 20 to 30% higher is what I recently said to the vendor after like sort of years of simmering on it. I finally like rehearsed it enough times in my head where I felt like I could do it and do it respectfully. And then the vendor came back and was like, oh, that price list has been so helpful. We're making more money. And I'm like, yes. And are you then, adding more onto it? And they weren't. And she's like, well, I just don't want you to think we're undercutting you. And I said, but you are, and you have been the entirety of your floral sales at market. And she's like, but I don't want there to be hard feelings. And I said, well, I'm going to just be honest with you. I have had hard feelings about it. And I don't want there to be, and she just looked at me and I just looked at her and I'm like, have a good market. Like, that's just reality. And whatever. I think what sort of changed with me is quitting my extension job and having to make my finances jive with what I get paid at Urban Buds. And I do respect the prices more. Mima and the employees used to get on me quite a bit about giving stuff away, or, I always had, our flowers are too expensive. And Mima was saying it sort of for years, like, it's self-hate kind of. And it's a mix of, if you have that off-farm job, like, maybe there's some sort of part of it. But as I've gone fuller in this year, I've been like, heck no, I'm gonna stand by this price point. Now, that said, we do get discounts. We tried Dave Dowling's Bud Bucks idea, sort of. It was we created Monopoly money. Mima, if you hear any of her presentations, she likes Monopoly and talks about our little compound as a Monopoly game. Well, at one point we actually had Monopoly money where if you paid so much, then you got a coupon and turn in the coupon, and these coupons were everywhere. We're like, okay, we're done with the Bud Bucks. So now we have a loyalty card. If you spend 40, you get a punch. After 10 punches, you get $40 worth of product. I love it. It's very lo-fi. We don't ask for anyone's email, which we probably should, because no email lists are how everyone makes money. But I love that it's lo-fi and it's just a punch. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about undercutting prices. The other thing is, I do say now, sometimes maybe not so graciously. This is where we go back to know thyself, and that how do we keep improving to be kinder, better people, less reactive people. But one of the things I just doubled down on is our story. And in St. Louis, it was a really big deal. The liberals especially were fighting for a $15 an hour like wage, and our minimum wage here is around $12 an hour. Right now in the state, it's maybe like 12, 15, I don't know. But a couple years back, we really said, okay, we're going to just start people at $15 an hour. And so labor is our biggest cost. And sometimes I explain that to people, and I try to do it graciously. I think Lenny Larkin has a really good pie chart that I kind of like to do. And I think Planks and Pistols, or is that the right one? Out of Chicago, Mima?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, and yes, you do. He came to see anyway. He had a really good post. When people complain,
yeah, that's who it is. Planks and Pistols.
Planks and Pistols. Okay. He had this really excellent post about how when people say, "Oh, this is too expensive," sort of mentally tack on. Now, don't say it. Mentally tack on, like, for you, And I don't mean to even kind of do it with a little bit of like. It really should sort of graciously be like, "Well, for you." Because now it's like, okay, if you can't meet this price point and you need to compare it to the grocery store, then all right, I'm gonna hold tough. So that's what I'm gonna say about pricing.
I have literally, there was a point in time where there was one guy who was coming to farmers market. Miranda had dealt with him, another employee had dealt with him, and I had never dealt with them, but they were coming back telling me about this guy. This guy came to the booth, he would pick up a bouquet and he'd look at it and go, "I can get this cheaper at Trader Joe's." When I finally did meet him, I literally took the bouquet out of his hand and said, "You should go do that, because these flowers aren't for you. And it's fine. It's great. It's fine." And I mean, there was just silence in the booth, but I need to be respected. This is really hard work to show up and take somebody's grumpy attitude. I'm not going to do that. This is a beautiful flowers that I pride myself on. So you could go get Trader Joe's flowers. I'm fine with you doing that, and yeah, the competition, I call it, they're really not, I mean, every year they get bigger. They didn't have ranunculus, and this year they had tons of ranunculus and really cheap ranunculus. And so, I think that you just have to not let that energy eat you alive. And it's so funny because, like clockwork, every Saturday before the market, this other vendor walks slowly in front of our booth. And I always say, "Good morning." I have no idea where she's headed to, because we're kind of like, there's nowhere to go. Like, where is she going every Saturday morning? But, I just, and yeah, sometimes, especially in the middle of summer, when everybody's gone on vacation, we have to wait for her to sell out, but then we'll sell out. And then I have other customers who actually admitted, who've come to me and said, "I cheated on you, but I'm back." But I'm back. And that's very telling. That's very telling when they say, "I cheated on you, but I'm back now." I mean, that's a huge compliment, right? I don't get upset with people when they do things like that. I don't get upset when I've heard people get upset when the people say, "Oh, did you grow all these flowers?" Or, their questions are opportunity for you to step in and have a conversation. Yes, we grew all these flowers. They're just grown 2 miles from here. I mean, it just, you're setting up that relationship, and they don't even know you're setting up a relationship. It's just full tilt force. We're at our farmers market for 4 hours. We got to get in, We got to make some money, and we got to get out and have wonderful relationships with people. Those are
Yeah.
our goals at
Well,
our farmers market.
yeah, I'm gonna push back on you, Mima. It's like they want to be building relationships with us.
Well, yeah,
Like
I
that's the
know.
great
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, it isn't
yeah,
like we're
yeah.
somehow manipulating them to buy our,
No,
you
no,
know.
no. That's not what I was saying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They
like
want
we
those
meet
relationships.
them, right, right. Yeah. So to that end, again, my rules about the booth, like no sunglasses, right? Like that was a big thing. We had someone wearing sunglasses, and Mima and I were just like, oh my gosh, what's with that person? What's with our employee? What's wrong with them today? It's like sunglasses, of course, no smoking anything in the booth, right? If you're obviously sick, like don't come to work, we will I really want to institute, or I really want to, shall I say it right now? I can't make that kind of decision without talking to Mima, but like some measure of paid sick leave so people don't have to feel like they have to come when they're feeling terrible, especially if you're doing like a product that's consumed raw. I think farms should really think about that.
Okay.
Get paid time off. So, okay.
I have a couple ideas. So someone was asking about straight bunches versus bouquets, and I'll just tell about our experience. There's definitely people who just can't afford what you're selling. So we would always try to have something by the stem that maybe was $1 or $2, and you get to know the person who just truly only has that $1 or $2 a week. And maybe you slip them a little something else if they're not being pushy about it. There's always the vultures who are going to try to get a deal. We always try to have a little something that someone could buy so they felt like they had a little bit of beauty that they could afford. In general, we did straight bunches because we do like maybe $6 a bunch, and if you bought 4, it was $20. And that $6 bunch might have 3 or 4 or 5 stems depending on what the flower was. And I was happy to whip up a bouquet for them on site. I'm pretty good at that. We didn't make a lot of mixed bouquets unless I just had a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to sell that. Otherwise, I'm going to make it into a bouquet to help move it out the door. Little trick I use, we print our signs. We try to print very nicely, not handwritten, but legibly printed signs every week. And when I was printing them, I might put that same item with the plant's name, the flower's name. I might have a $10 sign and a $12 sign and a $15 sign. And I would start the day with $15, and maybe they would sell out immediately, which told me, oh, I should do 20 next week. Or maybe by midday, I still got most of them. I'm like, they're $12 now. They haven't been discounted, but for the people who come later in the afternoon, they're gonna see a lower price. I'm not like slashing. I'm not saying 25% off, but the market will tell you. And sometimes you could, maybe that thing you've been selling for 5, you could sell for 10. So Shanti's right. It is, you do get a lot of real-time feedback on this stuff. Obviously, we want to make the most money we can because it's an expensive thing, a time-intensive thing that we're all doing here. Someone wants to know about what are your most profitable market flowers. I guess that's probably going to change by the week. I think that's part of the fun of farmers markets is that you can't really have the same thing every week. Have you all identified a crop that you tend to make the most money on, or does it just change?
No, I think there are, the crops, ranunculus is always a big crop in the spring. Lisianthus always is a huge crop. People love the Lisianthus. For us, sunflowers are okay, but the Lisianthus and ranunculus are absolutely what people flock for.
Yeah,
So
but I
maybe-
think there's a distinction between like what sells really well, but what is like profitable based on like all of the input, time, plugs, bulbs, and then it becomes like a very challenging formula that's really worth, investigating, but much harder to say than just like what sells really well. Like what is profitable becomes a more challenging equation. Yeah, I don't know. That's just a point.
That's a great point.
I remember a conversation once with a grower from Kansas. I don't remember her name because I don't remember people names, but I remember plant names easily. And she was frustrated because she would grow ranunculus and Lisianthus, and she wanted to be seen as that person. But in Kansas, her market really identified with sunflowers. And they would walk right past the ranunculus and say, where are the sunflowers? She's like, well, they're not in season yet. We'll get to them. And like, well, I'll buy when you have sunflowers. She had plenty of land. She had tractors at her disposal. She could be planting 10,000 sunflowers a week. But in her mind, she was a ranunculus and Lisianthus grower. was like, well, that's great. Maybe you start a sideline business just selling sunflowers, and that can fund your next greenhouse or your next infrastructure thing. So at some point, you just got to grow more of what sells and less of what doesn't.
I feel like I make a lot of money on sunflowers because it's such a low input thing. I
Mhm.
can put them in mixed bouquets. I can sell them straight. I still grow ranunculus and lisianthus, and like I want to be the fancy flower seller too, but I'm totally fine with like growing a lot of those things that are cheap to grow and sell well.
And sometimes having those few fancy flowers on your table, we used to grow some callas because they just looked,
I
well, you
like
grow
that.
those? I'm like, yeah,
Totally.
people are like, wow, that's an interesting flower to see at a farmer's market. They'll buy your sunflowers, but they're interested in that calla. So sometimes having a few flashy flowers on your table can just elevate the perceived value of everything you're selling.
Yeah, I also, what I've been hearing this year is, are you going to have that? So, we keep saying, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Are you guys going to have that dahlia growing workshop? Or also, I'm giving up on my dahlias this year. I'm going back to zinnias, right? I keep hearing this. So it's sort of interesting to keep your ear on the ground and what they're failing with. That's what you excel with, right? Because you're the expert. So grow the hard things. I think yeah, with Shanti's idea of like Roseanne Lysianthus, that is not gonna sell at our farmers market. What was that beautiful brown rudbeckia, right? Sahara,
Sahara.
Savannah, something like that. Also dead, people are like, this is dead. I would, if we had more land, I would just love to have a whole tunnel, a whole field of just foliage. I would love to have, that going on. That would be wonderful. We could use more of that all the time. And I miss the calla lilies. I always really want to get into lilies of the valley, which is what I say. And yeah, I think the flower bar idea that you were talking about, Bailey, I like the idea of we do have some single stems of like maybe ornithogalum or something like that they can buy. I think as we were building the business, or maybe a slower market, I do think the single stem bar can be a great way to keep people in the booth, especially if it's a slower market, less foot traffic. Then you kind of have this stem bar, you create this experience. It's a way to sort of interact with the customers and the kids without necessarily having a kid activity. I always like to have a kid bucket. I mean, the stuff that doesn't even go into the happy bouquet, that goes to kids. And then I also think I want to work writing a fact sheet on, will this flower kill my cat? Maybe I'll do an info, because
So
that
many of them
I
will.
realize
Yeah.
I spend time Googling like every week if something will kill my cat. So yeah.
Not to co-opt the conversation, someone asked in the chat earlier about keeping flowers looking good in the heat. So we're in a very hot climate.
Next question.
Missouri is also quite hot. So I would just give a few, if that's okay, a few tips on that. So we have like a sprinter van that we'll keep running. We'll keep backstock flowers in there. Maybe not this time of year, but like heading into like July and August. And then I found there's just certain things that don't go in a mixed bouquet in the middle of summer. Like I can grow them, I can hydrate them, I can send them off to a florist, but they don't sit out in the heat well at a farmer's market. So we just stop putting them in. So like Corinth is something that just like will always wilt for me in a bouquet in the sun. Or I mean, we have tents and whatnot, but just even the heat of the air temperature. So it's like this trial and error. Like you're doing your best to keep the flowers cold. You have stuff on display. You have backstock in the coolest place you can have it. But if it's consistently not performing well from you, you have to skip it. And so I guess that's my thing. The other thing is like, ideally having like our farmers market starts at 7:30 in the morning. Like early markets, I hate afternoon markets for selling flowers. It's just not even worth it. They will wilt. Like early markets is selling early. So whatever you can do, I love that thing from your market manager where you get $20 if you're the first to respond to the email. If you can like incentivize people to show up early and do a thing, whatever it is, it's like a free sunflower stem, because we all have too many sunflowers, to the first 50 people that buy a bouquet, whatever it is, you just have to like dangle the carrot to get them to do what you want. So selling the flowers earlier in the morning is a great way to not have to worry about them in the heat. We send people home with like bags of water or like a wrap for their flowers. Again, we're in a really hot climate. That makes them feel safe buying the flowers. Maybe in Vermont, you didn't need to do that. So it's really like, yeah, dependent on your environment, but just some things to me, they just don't work at the farmer's market. So I stop using them.
Yeah, nothing leaves our booth that doesn't have some kind of water on it. A wrap paper towel in a little baggie, with a rubber band and the flower food attached, because it's just too hot, in the summer. You know, African blue basil melts down on us in the summer. It's really hard to use, so we stop using it. There's just things that there's nothing that's going to help them hydrate during market. You know, they're just going to naturally wilt. You just have to not use them in their bouquets, as painful as that is. I love African blue basil, but I know it's not going to hold through my market. So instead of stressing, because I do stress the second I see the first thing wilting, I'm like, oh my God, everything's going to start wilting now. So it's just easier not to use it. Find
Also,
something else.
if you have something wilting, you need to get that off display. Do not leave that out there and be like, oh, it's really hot.
Right.
No one wants to see that. And if you have a choice, pick a place that has shade in the hottest part of the day. You know, the sun moves in the same direction all summer long. So pick the shady side of the street if you can.
And that's to having a good relationship with your market manager, because we told our market manager we can never have we're in the same spot every year, but in the winter they might move us around, and it's like we need shade every time you think about us, and they've accommodated that very well.
Yeah, I agree. Someone else's comment in the chat, maybe it was about being at more of a flea market type thing in the tube socks, and they were saying they were next to someone selling Tide detergent, which sounded horrible for the smell. But she was saying she noticed her sales going up depending on who she was next to. So yes, for sure. Like, I love that we are the booth that everyone wants to be next to, because they know that we have the line of customers in the morning. But the consistency, being there over the years, being there every week, that's how you get the good spot. Being good to the market management, like having a good relationship. We go the extra mile for everything that they ask for. Oh, you're having a farm to table fundraiser for the farmers market. Can you guarantee us this, that, and the other thing in August? You know, we go way, you know, we always go out of our way to help with all of the fundraising activities, all of the extra requests. And then when we want something, you know, we don't ask for much. So when we ask, we usually get it. Like, that spot is not working for us. We'll be in the same spot every week. We'll be at the far end of the market as long as we get some shade or whatever it is that is plaguing you, right? You get to ask for those things once you have some standing with the market. So that's like something to work up to, right? To where you can like actually make those requests, because every person thinks they deserve shade. I will tell you, every vendor, even with the tube socks, they want the shade. Not that they deserve it, but you know, you got to work up to that, and then you really can like harness that relationship building that you've been working on.
Could I make a couple points here about the hot climate? Yeah, one thing that just really struck me with visiting Sunday Meadows some time back was that they could actually drive their van up to their cooler. It's like, what? So if you have the ability while you're designing your space, or if there's any way you can make load in faster and easier, one of the burdens of urban buds is the cooler is just in this position where we're walking out like bucket after bucket. It takes forever. So if you can do that, drive your van as close to your cooler as possible. I also say, like, for the stem bar, you might consider doing a jar, like maybe fill this jar for $20 or something like that. In which case the stems then go directly into water, and it would also save time, like for wrapping and for materials like that. Then I think the white tablecloths do help with keeping things cooler in our booth. And I've turned into my mother, folks. I'm putting the reflective sunshades on the van. Hey, the science is good. All right. So that's our thing.
I love it. I'm looking at my list of questions that people sent us, and we could honestly go for like 3 hours, but we're at more than an hour and a half now. So I think maybe we just need to talk about farmers markets another time. There's a lot of great questions. I think so much of even the questions, the answer is just going to reveal itself with doing a market. The hard part about so we had the farmers.
Can we do a lightning round? Do you think we talk about like just a lightning round?
Oh, let's see if I can find something. Some of
Is there just an easy, fast light? No, just something so fast.
What attracts the customer most?
High quality product.
Okay. Anyone else, Mima? Shanti?
Mima's ready to bounce.
A bubbly personality, you there greeting them. But, yeah.
I agree with both of those, and being there every week, people knowing what to expect, they can find.
Perfect.
Oh, our new crop top initiative brings in the crop top wearers, which is basically a lot of people these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say all of our employees wear like a Whipstone Farm shirt, but I think we gotta adopt the crop top. Yeah.
No, we don't make anyone wear a crop top. They want crop tops.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I think I did. No, I'm not gonna adopt it as a policy, but just to have it on offer,
You know what? We are unable to do lightning round, Bailey. I'm so sorry.
We're just gonna.
One more quick topic. We had a few questions about how do you the schlep is the problem, like getting the stuff. The flowers are big, they're wet, they're heavy. Like, how do you maximize your van space? I'd say just buy the biggest vehicle you can. Get shelves that are secure, and where to put where that thing goes every week, so it's in the same place where to look for it. Any magic tips on how to get your stuff to market in good shape?
We have multiple vehicles that go to market, and that's.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone saw the posted on Farmer Bailey that farmers market setup. So that was ours. It was a video. So we have a box truck with a lift gate. So all the flower buckets are on rolling racks. So that speeds up the process, right? We're rolling them out of the cooler, rolling them onto the truck, getting to the market, rolling them off the truck. I will say we had a Mother's Day disaster of lots of buckets falling off the racks on the way to market this Saturday. So that sucked, but we rescued everything, sold every last bunch, of course, because it was Mother's Day. But so sometimes the things that are there to help you cause a lot of problems, but yeah, there's definitely some, depending on your setup and your scale, some ways to really speed it up, but sometimes you're stuck with what your resources are. So,
when we started, we had a Ford Ranger, old Ford Ranger, and it was like Sanford and Sons. We had so much stuff strapped to the top of that thing, and then we were pulling every week. We go pick up a little U-Haul trailer that we would pull behind that truck, and I was always Thomas drove to market. I drove home from market. I would always have an armful of lilies in my lap for 2.5 hours. It took us a while till we could justify buying a van, justify buying a box truck to suit our needs. Maybe know that some of these inconvenient phases of your business are hopefully temporary. Once the sales start to become more regular, then you're going to be better equipped to pay for something that will give you a little more ease in your life. The hardest part for me with farmers market season was if you'd missed a crop this year, or I only grew this many tulips and I now see I could have grown 4 times as many. You got to get over that quickly. You can't dwell on that. On the bakery side, we sold out of blueberry scones. Well, we're just going to make 3 times as many next week. But you really sometimes only have one chance a year to get some of these things right. And over time, you learn and you adapt. Keep notes. No 2 seasons are going to be the same, but you start to learn your market, learn your skills, learn your climate.
Yeah, the notes are important because it's really easy to forget what brilliant ideas you had in the moment. So somewhere where you're actually keeping sales notes on how to improve next year, not mixed with all your other notes. But yeah, I think reminding yourself is very important.
Okay, we have one more question that seems to be quite pressing. What do you do about rainouts? What happens when you've got a couple $1,000s of flowers and it's pouring rain and nobody comes? What can you do?
Well, that's another reason. Not only are we going to the second market on Sunday for our senior customers, but we have a second market that is a backup for a rainy day. That's one thing that we do for sure, is that we have that second market. It's helped us out a couple of times, really well. A backup market.
Yeah, we also although like you sort of have to show profit to like write off a donation. So that isn't necessarily a thing. Like we aren't writing off our donations, but we would rather they go to a nursing home or, someplace like truly if there is an event, you know what I mean? We would rather like, we're at this point, where we would like gift that to a cause we care about, right? But we understand in the beginning times, like that stuff is so scary. So I really think the secondary market, having a relationship with, we have a relationship with Sugar Witch. They're like an ice cream parlor, or a restaurant. We're selling to a small grocery store right now. Any of those, like call up your restaurant buddies and be, hey, can you, maybe cut them a deal with like getting flowers on their table, something like that. So those are suggestions.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's really challenging because there's nowhere to move the volume of flowers that we move at the market anywhere else, but there are some little fill-ins. Like, so we have a farm stand, but we're way out, like 45 minutes out of town. We don't get a ton of traffic, but I might post, hey, we're gonna have extra flowers at the farm stand since the market was so rainy yesterday. We also live in a place where it doesn't rain all that much. So we have other negative weather, factors, but yeah, reaching out to some of our like retail customers, be like, hey, would you like carry some extra bouquets this week on consignment? Or we used to go to a Sunday market, and so they don't have the same like flower vendors anymore that we don't go. So I have like other local folks who sell vegetables up at that Sunday market. So I've sent flowers with them before, but it's like you're piecing it together, you're scrapping it together because your main thing didn't work. But there was a question a while back in the chat, like what are the reasons people stop going to farmers markets? And that's a big one. Like you are relying on the weather, that 4 hours, that one day of every week. And if something gets in the way, it really screws you over. So you're really, that's a major negative. As well as the schedule, like Bailey or Thomas said, like the getting up at midnight. I mean, that is like the literal worst. But we've been doing it for 20, 25 years. So some of it, I guess we just put up with it, but there's some other things that make it a challenge. So yeah, rain's one of them.
Yeah, thanks for
either,
go ahead, Miranda.
Sorry. Yeah, either it's weddings or farmers market. I think we just sort of accept, and I think Thomas said this well during our meeting last week, is like we've accepted like this is our job, and for now it's like I don't accept social engagements on Saturday evenings. I'm just too tired. You know what I mean? So it's like early on, I wish I would have known, right? Like just, hey, I can't go to that birthday party. And sometimes even brunch is too hard. And now after Mother's Day, this is like my first thing. So anyway, just take care of yourselves. Thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful that we had this time together. Oh my gosh. Wonderful.
Yeah, obviously there's so much more we could all say on the topic, but I hope we've got some gears turning in some people's brains. Yeah, it's something, part of the fun of it is you get to figure it out for yourself. By all means, listen to those people who have done it a long time and are doing well with it. But there's, you can always do it your own way. And if that works, that's all it has to do, right?
Right.
We're going to give away a copy of Dr. Alan Armitage's book he wrote with Kelly Garcia, The Field Guide to Specialty Cut Flowers. I will say it's purposefully very easy to read, it's good for a beginning grower. This is not super advanced, but it's got all the details you need, the basic information on a whole lot of crops, really clearly, concisely written. If you don't know Alan Armitage, he's been a professor and horticultural writer for decades. Even my university days, I would always seek out his books for advice. So he asked me to write a blurb for it, which I was very honored to have, one of these people that I always sort of idolized, asked me to write a little blurb. So we're going to give away a copy of his book. To do that, there's a link in the chat to do a little survey. Let us know what else, how can we help you? We want to help educate you. Obviously, you know, my main expertise is helping you figure out how to grow things. I think like a plant, and I want you to do that as well. But there's so much more to this business. You got to be a marketer. You've got to be a business person. You got to be an accountant almost sometimes. I'm not the expert on these things, but I know experts like these three wonderful women who helped us today. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you, Shanti. Thank you, Mimo. I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate what you've done for, well, just for the American cut flower industry. You're all inspirations.
Oh, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Bailey.
And happy
Thank you,
Mother's Day to all of
Shanti.
you.
Thank you, Shanti. Thank you, Bailey. Thank you, Thomas, Felicia, Allie, Hillary.
It was fun, guys.
Great. Until next time. Thank
Ciao.
you.
Wow.